Hello, Steve White, TrekBoy89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, here I am in my Star Trek uniform with my favourite Star Trek prop. Yes, I know it's Kelvinverse, but I do think they had the best costume and the best props. So I'll give them that. I'll give them those props. Now, I saw on StarTrek.com that they were doing a Star Trek Day, Star Trek Story, hashtag Star Trek Story thing, where you basically tell what your Star Trek story is, what Star Trek means to you. I thought I'd do that because why not? They apparently might include them on some of the Star Trek platforms, so why not? Well, it's hard when you think about what Star Trek means to you. If it's something you've grown up with your whole life. I watched the original series, then Next Gen, Discovery, Voyager, all the Star Treks, the movies, everything. It inspired me at a time when I probably was, yes, it's cliched, most troubled. I was an artistic, creative kid in primary school. I got a lot of attention for that and validation, I guess. But by the time I got to high school, I was pretty much seen not in any negative, positive lights. But I discovered Star Trek. A couple of things happened. They brought it back into my life. I'd seen it when I was younger. And I just got really inspired, and I would just sit down and just draw pictures of Star Trek all day. And it reminded people around me that I actually had talent as an artist, and people who had been writing me off for a while suddenly had something to validate me over and sort of, I don't know, be nicer to me, which is sad. They needed something, but apparently they did, and they had something. Apparently I was an artist. So I suddenly got attention. I suddenly was passing in subjects that that weren't affected by my art, but I was apparently acceptable now, and I was allowed to basically do well. It was quite strange. But the reason that all that happened, the reason why I did nothing but sit and watch Star Trek all day and draw pictures was because I wanted to be in that universe. I grew up in a small town that was very racist and all white, and I felt I wasn't a part of it, and I didn't know what my place in the future would be as like a young gay boy, but and an artist as well, an intellectual, all things which are all frowned upon and you didn't want to be, or you was told you shouldn't be. And I was all those things, and Star Trek told me that's good. You can be that, and you can be yourself, and that we have infinite diversity, infinite combinations, that basically the future, it will get better, everything will get better, and there is a place for you, basically. And there's that idea, that basic idea that everything is going to get better, humanity is going to get better, just the idea that tomorrow is going to be better. That message was enough. And I get into specifics of what episode said this, what movie said that, what character showed me this, but it was just that basic idea that I just understood. I just assumed that was the truth, that was the case, that was how things were going to go. Why wouldn't things progress in that same manner? Why wouldn't people see the universe, our planet, our world, our society the same way as me and want to go in the same direction? I've since, as an adult, learned not everyone thinks like that, not even within the Star Trek fan club and within the Star Trek franchise. It's very split. But it happened for me. It came at a time I needed it, and it helped me find motivation and to just have a better attitude and just get into university through my art and my talent, and get out of that town and get where I'm living now in the city, and just a different world. It just kept me positive, and it just changed my attitude and gave me hope, basically. Just gave me hope. And that's what I think Star Trek does when it's at its best. And like people said, it's a humanist show, or was a humanist show. It shows people examples and gives people the chance to think for themselves, and it's just brilliant, and I love it. And that's what it means to me. It means hope. It means tomorrow. And yeah, it pretty much saved my life. And I'm not the only person who, from the old days of the old fandom, can say that. It didn't save me from a drug addiction or some of those problems that people have talked about. It didn't save me from being a prisoner of the Vietnam War or something like some people have talked about. There are a lot of really beautiful, touching stories about Star Trek and how it's affected people that I've heard over the years. Mine's not that great, but, you know, it's my story. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you, Star Trek. Happy 54th anniversary, 54th birthday. Now, how did Star Trek come into my life? Now, a lot of people, I'm curious what people's stories are and what their experience with Star Trek is. So that's why I'm telling mine, because I think other people might possibly be interested. So myself, I started off, first exposure to Star Trek was either seeing the series on TV, I think on Sunday mornings or something, on the Sundays, and the first couple of movies on TV, I don't know which came first, but I specifically remember watching Shore Leave, the Galileo 7, what's the one with the pizza monster? I want to say the Doomsday Machine. It's not the Doomsday Machine. Devil in the Dark. I really remember some of those early episodes, watching them. They had a huge impact on me. And then seeing Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3 on TV. I think I saw Star Trek 1 on TV when I was incredibly young, and it got my attention, but I really just remember the matte shots from Vulcan and stuff like that at the start of the film. That's all I really remember of it. And I didn't see that again for years. But I didn't have a lot of Star Trek merchandise. I was not very lucky on that front. My friend had a Spock doll from Star Trek the Motion Picture, the little toy, which I tried to buy off him, and he wouldn't sell it to me. It took me years to find one and get one. But for the longest time, I just had a few comics. I had the Star Trek 1986 annual, which I got from someone else. It just reprints a couple of stories from the Gold Key era, but they're enough to get my imagination. I mean, look at that. Just the Enterprise going into some giant space anomaly, and just the weirdness, the strangeness of space, and just, I don't know, I just focused on this. All I had, so I just obsessed on these because that's all I had. I had to use my imagination, and Star Trek got my imagination going, and I would just sit in my room and pretend like it was my cabin on the Enterprise. I had an individual Gold Key comic, which is a reprint of the first one, which is pretty cool, basically, and especially the first page where they're going through space and all of a sudden a spore somehow gets through and into the crew, and, you know, I'm not going to ruin the story in case you haven't seen it. And my mum, she basically had a rule, because she was smart enough to know she'd get stuck buying comics forever if she didn't create this little thing. But basically I was only allowed to get one Star Trek comic, one comic of everything, and I ended up with some Star Trek comics. So she didn't even buy me any Star Trek comics, but I ended up with two. For the longest time is all I had. Episode 37 from DC, issue. That's the one where it's set after Star Trek 4, and they're basically getting ready to take off. And the whole episode, there's a little story in there, but most of the episode is just them, each in their crew, thinking about where they are, and it's nice. It's a nice little reintroduction. And of course, issue 38, which was actually a flashback to the original series, where they actually, they were just back in the original series. So I kind of just had one of each from DC. And that's all I had for the longest time. And like I said, I had to use my imagination. I had to actually imagine Star Trek stories. And I think that was actually good. And I think it helped me. And then eventually I found the Next Generation episodes on video, which, if anyone remembers these covers and these, they basically did 2 episodes, and they just per tape and did a random bunch of them. And then eventually, finally, we got Next Gen to buy, so I bought all those. And it took a little while. Actually, no, I've got them in the wrong order. I started watching the Next Gen ones because their videos came out for rental first, but the original Star Trek came out on video before they did, about 2 years before they did. So for the longest time we had just random episodes of incredibly poor quality by random distributors like Paladin Promotions. This was a proper Paramount one. It was better quality, but it was like the only one I could ever find. With Plato's Stepchildren, Whom Gods Destroy. And then there were these other random ones, which are probably unofficial, probably done by fans, but probably bootleg. Episodes like Sit on the Edge of Forever, The Conscience of the King, I think that was the first I ever bought. And Shore Leave had slightly different art. I've got a lot of them. But what really got me excited was when, walking home from school one day, I found this on the ground and discovered there was a collection of Star Trek, the original series videotapes, which I didn't even know about. I don't know where this came from or how long it had been around. And they were still doing it. I started getting it. And every, I think, month, if I remember correctly, you would get an episode of Star Trek. They started off with The Cage, which I already had because they had The Cage and Space Seed and The Changeling were available on video just before the Next Gen ones came out. But then they didn't do any others. They just did those two releases that were done for rental first, I think. But then they started doing these first season episodes, which all I got was first season. I didn't get the whole series. But When No Man's Gone Before, the Cold Might Maneuver, Mother Women, The Enemy Within. If anyone remembers these covers. I've got all the covers. I got rid of all the videos, obviously. Man Trap, The Naked Time, Charlie X, The Balance of Terror. All these classic episodes. I basically get them and you'd watch them, and then they just became your world for me anyway, because they were all I had for the longest time. Then for the 30th anniversary, which was just around the corner, they did 3 episodes per video for the 30th anniversary release, and I got all them. So I've bought Star Trek a few times, and then they did individual DVDs, but I didn't buy that because I just bought all the videos. And I waited. I had some sense after all this double dipping, to wait for the DVDs to come out. So I got those. And then, thank God, they remastered them all, and I got the Blu-rays. I did have the remastered on DVD as well before that, which I watched religiously. Because usually for the anniversaries, I would marathon the series, mostly original series, Next Gen. Sometimes I went all the way through Deep Space Nine and Voyager, but it's a lot of episodes, a lot of time. I mostly just focused on the original series and Next Gen and the movies. But with the remastered, I was so excited by the remastering and the special effects that didn't pull me out of the episode like I realised the old effects did, but I'd just gotten used to. And I watched that pretty much the whole season 1, every weekend for like a month or so after I got it. And then as each season came out on DVD, I watched them as well, and 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and 3. And they're my favourite thing. I haven't marathoned them for a little while because they're very... I'm making them kind of precious, and I tend to not watch them because I kind of feel like I have to have the time to appreciate them properly, and I don't want to have to distracted by other things. I don't want to be doing other things around it. I want to sit down, and when I've got time to watch them properly, I'll watch them, which means I never get to watch them. I haven't watched Star Trek in probably 5 years, which is, I got to work on that. I think the 50th anniversary, I think, was the last time I watched them, so that was 4 years ago. But that's my experience with Star Trek, how I got introduced to it, and it was mostly through videos and DVDs. And the other thing that they did, 2 other things I should mention, I got cable Foxtel for a while, which is the channel we have in Australia, streaming cable channel, which I think is now streaming, that we had in Australia, and they did Sci-Fi Sector. Saturdays they would show Star Trek original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and then I think Enterprise later, all in order as they came out from I think 7:30 till about 12:30 at night. And that was every Saturday, and for a while I was also getting the fact file. So I'd go to the newsagents, get my fact file for the week, and then read through that while I was watching 4 hours of Star Trek every week. And it was great. So that was sort of how I sort of lived with Star Trek. And then when Enterprise came out, the videos started coming out and they stopped them because they weren't selling. Videos in general weren't selling, and it took a while to get DVD. So I think we had about 3 years where I actually had to watch the episodes on TV every week. I actually had to wait for them. And in a way it was good because you focused on just a few episodes, just like the videos when you had to wait a month to get 2 episodes. They really meant more, and you really didn't take them for granted. Same thing with Enterprise, but eventually the seasons came out, I think in the last year of the show, and I ended up watching the last season a couple of weeks before the final episodes, but I still watched the final episodes on TV in 2005, and then that was it for Star Trek. And then it's just been celebrating the anniversaries, looking for collectibles, uniforms, books, stuff like that, and just finding ways to keep Star Trek alive while we're sort of waiting for it to be made again and to get a Star Trek series on TV again, so that we can go back to that universe. But I talked way longer than I thought. I didn't think it'd take that long to get through all that, but I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know, if anyone wants to tell me how they got into Star Trek and what their experience with Star Trek was. I'd love to hear. I'll probably see a lot of that on the Facebook channels anyway, because groups, because I'll be posting on there and just checking out what people are saying on there. But I'm going to go. Thanks. Bye.